Okay, there's the record button. So thank you so much to those of you who managed to rearrange your schedules and be here for our Gold Diamonds discussion. I don't know, sort of how many will still come in to join us this evening. I know that it's later than normal, just unforeseen circumstances, but absolutely necessary. Um, sort of keeping wheels on the road, um, absolutely essential. Yeah, Liz, I've got another car. Um, so that was what I did today. It was just absolutely essential that I did that. So thank you to those of you who are here and just welcome. I mean, it really is another opportunity for us. I mean, since the eclipse on Friday, which I know we did a community teleclass with a really powerful purification cleansing process. Since then, I've seen a lot more. Um, in respect of and understanding that there is just such a massive unconscious purging of it's like volcanic eruptions from the collective unconscious that we're experiencing. So that purification, I think, that we did then was so well timed, and it is so opportune to perhaps keep utilizing the essence and the energy of the black diamond to support us through the next couple of months, because even while we're noticing and we're all seeing in different ways depending on where we are that the lockdown, I hate that description because it's a jail term, but the conditions are easing somewhat. um, there's still a lot of change, and there's probably going to be an incredible amount more still happening. The protests haven't yet eased. We're seeing even a build up in the UK. But the irony of what we're seeing here, and it gets so frustrating, is that we see almost this two-tier policing in the UK, where, for instance, people who were picnicking and social distancing in the park, picnicking with their families just 2, 3 weeks ago, were demonized and harassed by the police. And then it was only 2 weeks ago, and yet suddenly, with the protests, you're allowed to gather in protests and crowds and no face masks, and it's quite all right to have peaceful protests now. So there is a very much a distortion that's become evident in the way that some of the regulations, the official regulations, are being applied, and to who. So we can kind of see this almost demonizing those who actually want to abide by and do their civic duty, perform their civic duty. And yet those who are now protesting no social distancing, no masks, are being allowed to do it. So some very, very interesting dynamics. And I think we need to be aware of these dynamics because these things are going to be coming up, I think, more and more with more evidence in the months to still come. I mean, it's by no means over, even though the stay-at-home conditions are easing somewhat. So very, very interesting times. And in the last few days, those things have become even more evident. So I don't know, again, this is a discussion group. I want to hand it over to you. I think one of the golden rules that I've said to a couple of people, the challenge that we have is to observe everything that's going on, continue our purification, and not engage with the emotionality or the polarity that is actually being evidenced in what we are seeing. So I just say that again because that's something that I keep seeing and reminding myself of. It's like, just observe it. Know that this is happening. Don't get caught up. Just do not engage. Don't get caught up with the dramas and the potential. What's the word? The tricks in it all. It's like, just step back. We need to do what we do to hold the line and hold the timelines. There's a lot of people looking at stuff and going, I just despair of what is actually becoming of our world. And I said, it's okay. It's okay. It's just, it's more and more and more of those distortions becoming evident. And it is a difficult navigation. So yeah, that's my contribution for the moment. So over to you guys in respect of how you're experiencing the changes, what your observations might be, and then again, are there any additional tools that you guys have found particularly useful or relevant to enable you to manage this process more effectively? It is a bit like a roller coaster. I think for a lot of you, it's been the same. We get together and we feel great, and then we spend some time on our own, and then it's like it all gets a little bit too much, and then we have a chat with a friend or somebody who knows what's going on. It's like, oh, it's just so good to do that, and then we feel up, and then it can actually be drawn back down again. So yeah, I mean that's my experience. It's like, let's be real, we're human, we're experiencing that. So
I feel, sorry, who was going?
Katie.
Who's
Oh,
go on, Katie?
do you want to go?
No, I haven't got much to say, but no, you go.
Go ahead.
Go
for it, Liz.
Oh, okay. Well, all I was going to say is, for me, everything is just so surreal. One minute I'm engaged in it and feeling desperate, then I get back up on my cloud, press, and go be the observer. And then when I'm on everyday life, trying to ignore what's going on and trying to even meditate, it's almost like I'm in this void. I can't even get into a different state of consciousness. I think the process we done the other day, I think I fell asleep. So I couldn't even engage, wasn't even engaging in that. So I don't know whether I'm on a safety valve because I emotionally cannot cope.
It's too much to process.
Yeah, or whether I'm just in denial. I really don't know. And the fact that I can't get any intuitive, nothing's happening on the intuitive wavelength either. So I'm sort of just in a void. Pop
Can
my head
I
up
respond
occasionally
to
and
that,
then go
Liz?
back down.
Yeah. If I can, that sort of being in a void or the void feels very much as if that's where we are at the moment. So I don't think it's only you. It's like there are no answers at the moment. There is just the process, and it is overwhelming.
I suppose it's just, and we're there with the possibilities as well.
Yeah. So it's being in the I don't know. You know, I mean, I've also had these discussions with people where it is, I don't know what's going to come out of this. I don't know what it's going to look like. We can only hold that peaceful space as much as possible. I mean, I've got the rebel archetype. I mean, aside from the scholar who actually loves learning, I've got the rebel archetype. So I just can't help it. When I'm out there and I walk into, like today, when I walked into a service station shop, I had to get petrol to come back. So I thought I'll grab a cup of coffee there and bring it back with me so I could get a takeaway coffee. And there were no wooden stirrers. So I looked and I said, why are there no stirrers to stir my coffee? I know they've taken them all away because people will touch them. And we're waiting for individually sealed stirrers to now come in. So I said,
people
okay.
have touched the outside of the packaging.
Yeah. So I said, so how am I supposed to stir my coffee? So she looks at me and she says, well, let me tell you what other people are doing. She says they take another cup and then they put whatever they want and then they just like tip the coffee between the two cups until it's mixed. So I said, all right, then I'll do that. If that's what we must do, that's what we. Now, usually I would like really be getting quite annoyed by this stage because this is just taking things to the nth degree. But I didn't. I'm like doing this with my coffee. So I said to the woman, I said, you know that there's a lot of lies that we're being told about this. I said, there are thousands of scientists whose voices are not being heard, who have a totally different story to what we're hearing on the news. I said, and the likelihood is that at least 80% of the population is actually immune at this moment in time. So she looked at me and she actually, instead of being like some of the other people who've done that, who said, I don't care, I'm just doing my job, she looked at me and she said, really? Oh, that's interesting. I said, yeah, here's a couple of websites for you to go and have a look at. Just have a look and see what they say. Because what we're seeing on the news is actually not the truth. So she said, oh, good, thanks for that. I said, there you go, have a nice day. And I took my poor mixed coffee, got back in the car. So I patted myself on the back and went, that was really good. That was the tamed rebel. But it's taking each and every opportunity to keep waking people up by presenting them with an alternative. Sorry, Liz. Yeah.
Have you also seen the funny side of that scenario?
What?
The rebel archetype can't get her stirrer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The symbolism. Because of course, but it's the rebel archetype is the liberator. That's the higher purpose of the rebel. You know, so it's knowing when to stir, when to, you know, so it's kind of and how, as opposed to just go, you know, and spitting it all out. So I do accept that as part of my divine purpose, you know, and that's why I like buck against the establishment, but it needs to be done, I think, you know, and that's where my learnings in the last couple of months have been, to temper the frustration of it and be able to deliver it in a different way that it becomes more palatable and acceptable to others. So we're all learning through this. It's a constant period of adjusting and fine-tuning each and every one of our gifts. So thank you for bringing that up, Liz. And that's, yeah, so I kind of walked out and felt quite good, because I thought, you know, it really frustrates me, like only a certain number of people in the shops and everybody's going yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full, and, you know, kind of thing. That it's like stepping back and just honoring where they are at and just sowing the seeds when there's an opportunity. And that to me is just, it's like part and parcel. One person can't change it all, but one person sowing the seeds is actually laying the groundwork for movement. So even though you feel as if you're in the void, it's just in that moment, like I did this afternoon, in that moment, right, here's an opportunity for me to deliver something, and I'll just do it, you know, and just that being in the moment. So just trust the process, Liz. But we are all metamorphosing, for want of a better description. We are. There's a massive, internal and biological shift that is actually happening for each and every human being. And of course, we know when we go through that, we go through a passage that is akin to the void while the changes are happening. So thank you for sharing that, you know, just honoring the journey. Thank you. So Katie.
Actually, I had something that happened, and I don't know as I've ever felt it quite this strong. And I wanted to ask you, I think it was Saturday morning, and I felt like I had an internal motor going, like, and I'm talking about from the tips of my toes to the tips of my fingers, like it was this internal motor, the slightest little thing like this going. And it was a little disconcerting because I could feel that it was annoying, but at the same time, I realized that there was work being done.
Yeah.
And also, in my legs or my feet, I get zinging.
Is that new?
No, I've had that before, but I'll tell you, I've had it not because of a physical issue, but when I know I've been, what would you say, moving to
Adjusting, yeah,
a
to a new level.
yes, yes, because I had that a while ago. I mean, years ago, and I
Yeah.
remember there was nothing wrong with my feet, nothing wrong with my circulation, but it was almost funny. It was like zzz, I was on this pad. So so I had a little bit of that too, and I could tell that I was getting a little, I felt like telling Tuck, that's my husband, I may need to stay a little bit further away today.
You're so polite, Casey.
But,
You're so good.
but he, because he also had some kind of stressful stuff that he didn't want to let go of, but there was nothing that could be done about it. And he can be a little, well, anybody can, but sometimes he's a little OCD. So it's like, honey, we've got to go with the flow. And I need that sense of being able to go to that quiet. And I
Yeah.
wasn't getting the opportunity. But
Yeah.
what I did was, and I didn't know what else to do because I thought we're not getting into a big, to do about this. So I just spoke to myself and I said, okay, what am I going to do? So I went on the elliptical. And on
What's
the
that?
elliptical machine, it's an exercise machine.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, because I thought either it's going to get it through my system faster or at least the tension, because obviously there was some emotional stuff going
Yeah.
on, which I'm sure was stuff that needed to be released. So I got through the weekend just fine. Nothing happened, or there wasn't any misfortunate occurrence. But I had to work on it. I felt there was a lot going on this weekend. I
Yeah.
really felt kind of weighted down a bit, and I felt it was from whatever was going on out here.
With the eclipses.
And it's hard because you're getting that, and then you're also working with this extra tension from within.
Yes.
And I think that may have been why I was receiving that that vibrational annoyance.
You remember I said on Friday in the teleclass that I needed to mention about Kundalini
Mhm.
because at this time there are at least 4 or 5 triggers that are prime for those who are ready for a deeper spiritual transformation and experience that Kundalini actually facilitates. The Divine Mother, the Divine Feminine. Now, what you've just described, the internal pressure and the external, or the internal tension and the external pressure that we spoke about on Friday, the kind of responses in your body are prime indicators of the activity, especially the tingling in the lower limbs from the feet, usually sort of from the feet up to about the calves and sometimes up to the knees, but it is like electrical impulses, like a series of vibrations that actually starts in the lower limbs, and that's because that's where the energy actually does start. So this is prime time that we are in. So it's very, very wise to, and I think this is one of the things that I said as well, just become super aware of what is going on in your body. And when Kundalini when she's becoming more active, that's exactly what she's doing. It's the Kali energy that is breaking down, that is serving by destroying and transforming a lot of the old unconscious patterns. So whatever we are still carrying, it's like another round of clearing, another round of purging. But of course, while that's happening, the energy itself acts as an amplification, as a magnifying glass on those issues. So we do and can feel emotionally hypersensitive
Mm.
and quite raw almost with it. So if we, and that's what you were saying. So having that awareness and doing what you did, I think is really important to be able to do that, to take ourselves out of any circumstance that may trigger a negative reaction, and knowing that it's not about the other person or whatever it is in the environment. It's about something that is happening to us. So and the sense I have, Katie, those that have been on a spiritual journey, this is another stage of awakening. These things are going to be happening. There are so many. I mean, that's why I said that Kundalini awareness program that I did, I spoke about a lot of stuff. If you wanted to, Jana Dixon's book, the Biology of Kundalini, is an incredible resource. And that's one of the things, if we remember as well, that it is a cyclical process. It's not a one-off. So we'll go through and have a major awakening, and then it actually takes sometimes a couple of years to integrate at that level. So it may be quite a few years since you experienced some of those things, and suddenly it starts up again, and you kind of go, it's the same process at another level. It's another clear through, and it's always divinely orchestrated. We can never know when that's going to happen. But I was certainly, and I think I said to you guys, I've been very, very aware of these heat spots on and off, which is one of my indications that's very clear when it's happening, because it's in certain parts of the body where the energy is moving in order to clear that out, wherever the blockages in our armor, our emotional armor, still exist. So a lot of that gets reduced. But the one thing I've been aware of is this sporadic, it's like I lose all strength in my arms. Now, I don't know if you've had experiences where you just lose strength in your limbs. It's like for no reason. Have you had that, Marilyn?
Mm-hmm.
That
And I have had
Yeah.
some reason, but then it's gone overboard.
Yes. Yes. Well, this for me, that's one of my manifestations as well. This, like, just my arms, especially. It was like, and over the last week, it's been very, very evident that suddenly all strength will go out of my arms, and it'll last for maybe 5-10 minutes, and then it feels quite normal again, and it's okay. Now, 10-12 years ago, when I was going through the process, but I didn't understand what it was, when this started happening, I got a little bit concerned. You know, it was like, I just don't know what it is. There's no strength in my arms, but this little voice inside my head, you know, I would be saying, oh God, do I need to go to the doctor? And there's an inner voice that kept saying, no, it's okay. No, it's okay. One of the other things that you might experience is chest pains. Now, I know, Marilyn, you might be, because you've got a heart condition, I don't know if this would be something that would be relevant for you. And again, it's kind of like this deep, deep chest pain that sometimes it's difficult to take a really, really deep breath, and it would stay there as a localized pain that was there for probably a couple of months, and then it disappeared. And there was another one I would go, maybe I need to go and get this seen to, you know, but it was kind of, again, the voice was saying, no, it's okay, just stay with it. It's okay, you don't need a doctor. And then it disappeared. And the reason why the arms lose strength is because the arms are part of the energy circuitry that's connected with the heart. So if Kundalini is working on the heart area, all of the energy is pulled in order to fulfill and act as fuel to actually transform and break down more of the armor and the barriers around the heart. So it is like the energy in the limbs just disappears for a while that work is actually going on, and that includes the tightness in the chest. It's the constriction in order to actually sort of burst through to that expansion. So it's very interesting to become aware and then to act accordingly. As you did, you went and got on the exercise machine because you felt that that was what you needed to do. So it's really, really important to do that, and that will probably fuel and speed up the energy process. Once you get over that, there's usually a period of integration. It's what's called the burn off, when the cellular die off, when we go through transmutation and transformation in that way. There's literally a die off of the old cells. So it's almost like a detoxing process where we need to be quiet and allow the body the energy to detoxify. So there are two different actions that would be required depending on where we're at in the cycle. So I think that's also worth bearing in mind. But again, it's always trust. Just trust the inner voice that guides you as to what is the most appropriate thing to do in the moment. And Liz, what you might be finding is that you're in that void place of a cleansing transformation cycle that is just requiring you to be still.
Yeah, could well be. And I was interested about what Katie said about the machine. Because I was having sort of mini electric shocks probably about a month ago, and I've got a chi machine, which I call the wobble machine. You stick your ankles in and it sort of like does your body like that.
Yeah.
And that helped greatly. But what you've just said, the one word that was really, I just thought, that's it, that's exactly what I'm feeling, is constriction.
Yeah.
Even being in the void, but I think constriction, it would be sum up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can tell you, you know, and somebody said to me the other day, have you chronicled your journey with Kundalini? And I said, actually, I haven't, but I think it might be very, very interesting to chronicle the journey, because there are things that different people will be able to relate to. And I've always said, that's the way spirit works with me. It's like, here's the experience, you got to have it first, and then we'll show you what it means. We'll show you what it's about, kind of thing. So I just get taken through loads of experiences. But the constriction story was, my experience of that was within the first year after I came to England in 2002, so between 2002 and 2003. And the only way that I could describe it, you may be able to relate to this, was as if I had an elastic band that had inside of me that had been pulled tight. And it was just getting ready to burst, but I didn't know, but I couldn't move it, I couldn't force it, and I didn't know how and when that was going to be released. So it was like a probably more of a tension rather than a constriction, but the words I used at the time were that it was like an elastic band that had been pulled so tight, I just didn't know how to work with it. Really, really, really tight. So that constriction is probably another way of experiencing that. So I think it's really good to discuss these things, because it does add a perspective. And just you saying, Liz, that you had those pulses, electrical pulses, a couple of weeks ago. If we don't talk about these things, how do we know that it's actually linked with a bigger picture and part of a bigger journey?
I agree. Also,
we fob it off as just something that just happened to me, and there it was, and now it's disappearing. Yeah.
I had, I think it was either it could have been 6 years ago. I had what I considered to be not acid reflux, but indigestion.
Oh my God, yeah.
Indigestion. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? You know, am I having a heart attack? You know, whatever. In fact, it was longer. It could have been 10 years ago. And I asked my body, and my body said, you're okay. But I still went to the hospital anyway, because I thought, what if I'm wrong? You know, because it was there and it wasn't going away. So I thought, I mean, if I am, you know, you've got your children, you've got your husband, you just don't feel like this is quite the time to have a massive heart attack. And this was before he had heart problems. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I did go. They said, absolutely no problem, nothing. You know, you're absolutely all right. And it's happened since, maybe 2 years after that. And now when I ask my body, it says, not a problem, not a problem. But that particular time, it lasted. It really, and that has to do with Kundalini.
It will be a part of it. I think it could be associated with a manifestation. It's like once you understand the whole picture, you can almost go back and see the patterns that have actually taken place and see if there was anything else happening to you around that and associated with that. But if we think of acid, what does acid do? Acid is something that breaks down. So acid reflux is a buildup of acid. It's part of the breaking down of cellular material in order for the body to process it. And acid also, what happens if we spill acid on our skin? It burns. So it's an aspect of an increase in heat. Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say, I'm going through indigestion tablets like there's no tomorrow at the moment.
I've also had some acid reflux just recently, exactly the same thing. And the message that I've been getting as well is like it's okay. It's part of managing the process. So when I look at it, I kind of see all of these hot spots that have been appearing again on and off. This weakness in the arms, which I know is an association for me, together with the acid reflux kind of thing. There's like a whole basket of things happening at the same time, which then gives you an indication of a major physiological and biophysical shift.
Well, I've had
and
some
change.
different things too. And
Yeah.
Itching in my feet and ankles, and I have no idea what that's about. But a lot of itching in my feet and ankles, and sometimes up my shin. And then I've had back and knee issues for years and years, but they have become exceedingly worse. And sometimes after I take a nap, I can barely get up, I can barely walk, I can barely stand up. I don't know what that has to do with. It's just my body is crashing or energy, or I don't know. And just sitting here listening to everyone, the palm of my left hand became extremely hot, and I have hot on the left palm, and then the fingers of my left hand will get very cold, and chest discomfort. And so I have no idea what this is, whether it's the condition of my heart, the condition of my joints, but I've been having bad headaches as if somebody beat me in the back of the head. I need a Atlas adjustment, but there's none inside. And so physically, that's what's going on. But
Yeah.
our family has gone into major trauma and drama. And the day that George Floyd had his first funeral, I guess that was Saturday, I guess. And
I don't know. I wasn't
I don't
watching,
know.
so.
And there were the energetics around the world, and the marching and the violence and all of that was so high. And I innocently went on to Facebook and saw this cute picture of some of my grandchildren at my son and his ex-wife's wedding. And she's Japanese, and this was many years ago. His daughter is now 25. And I saw this, and I innocently clicked on it. And what I found was one of my grandsons was in a horrendous fight with my granddaughter who's in Japan and is half Japanese. And apparently he had said something to the effect of the Chinese virus, and she just saw that and flipped out. and accused him of being a racist, and she was terrified of him. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I went ahead and read it, and I only read half of it because apparently there were 3 hours reading worth of text, almost 300, where all my grandchildren, and where they were all fighting each other. And
Oh, wow.
she was extremely hurt and angry, and she had been bullied and known people in San Jose, California in the last month who had been her friends who she went to school with, who had been beaten, and she was beyond offended, and she wouldn't stop. And they just begging her to stop the post, and she kept it going. And my grandson, later on, I found out from him that he has a job with American Airlines, and he was terrified that he would lose his job, and still is, because of being called a racist, and she's afraid of him. And anyway, everybody in the family got into it, and I was horrified and never saw the last half of it because it came after I got off. But without getting into any more drama, she will never come to this country. She has disavowed the Asplund family, and my son is, and I'm the matriarch of the family.
Mm.
And my son, who loves his daughter and hasn't seen her since she went back to Japan, he's upset. Everybody's in a place of upset, and I was sick to my stomach. And I began to get back and step back and see what was energetically going on, which is all the garbage that was going on on the earth that day.
Yeah.
All of it was triggering everything within everyone.
Yeah.
And the meanness that my granddaughter in Japan had from her mother, and the bullying she had in Japan for, when she was in Japan, they said, "Oh, you're white." And then when she was in the United States, where she mainly grew up, they said, "You're Japanese." And so she has never been treated wonderfully, and her mother is very mean and cruel. And so anyway, I'll stop the drama part of it, but it's just been probably the challenge of my life, the most hurt and emotionally distraught and destroyed I have ever felt in my entire life.
Yeah.
And so stepping back, seeing how everything has gone, triggered everybody, and doing my best to have conversations with those that I could. One is crying, one is this, and bringing some semblance of order where I could in the family. And some I have been able to do that, some I have not, and holding the space of giving them all to God, giving them all to the Creator,
Yes.
giving them to the Creator, and bringing in the heart space and transforming heart. And anyway, so that has been Saturday, Sunday, and it's just been a very strange time. And knowing that this one may never speak to the other one, it's just been unbelievable. So
That's the hardest thing, Marilyn. And I understand so completely, because it is like the divisiveness that is being fostered within society is being mirrored on
yes.
on a localized scale in families, and it's painful. I've actually had to sit with my mom through that. With exactly the same kind of thing. We've also got within our family one of my mom's sisters who's actually married to a Sudanese guy. And the racial and anti-racial rhetoric and the accusations that fall out of that are just beyond belief. And I just have to keep saying to my, okay, step back. Yeah, just don't get involved in it. Don't get involved. If they're carrying that drama, it's not your drama. It's their drama. You just have to literally allow that space, and as you say, Marilyn, what you've been doing, hold that space knowing, even though it's with sadness, that there are family members who will probably never speak to each other. But if we can honor and hold the space and see the soul beyond it, that's a really difficult soul lesson that they have chosen to come to earth and to actually learn. And yeah, as hurtful as it is, that's our job, isn't it? It's to
Yes.
resolve that hurt within ourselves and to simply hold the space for them in love to be able to do that for themselves and let them go.
Yeah, that's all that I know to do, and that's in the
And
beginning
that's all we
was
have to do.
horrendously hard, but
Yes.
that's what I've been working with and holding the space and 2 hour talks with this one and that one, and my son, whose daughter is in Japan and fears he may never see her again, his only child, and he trusts me, and he trusts my heart, and he trusts my belief in the Creator. So together we went through that, and
And thank the Creator that you were able to do that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
You know, and sort of and share your heart with him.
yes, yes, and I'm so grateful for that. And my daughter, I can share with my daughter that my daughter is everything that's hurt her since that child was born comes up for her.
Yeah.
And I was there at the birth of this child. I was there. I helped the mom. I was at the birth.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't intend to bring drama, but it's just been so fierce, and doing my best to be in my heart and just giving them all over. And when I heard that our family was disavowed and I was part of it, I was the head of it, that thing, I think, really stung the most.
Yeah.
And I realized
yeah.
it's not personal. It's not personal. It's what they've all come to learn. They've all come, and for me, it's what
Yeah.
I've come to deal with and be the head of the family. It's my job. It's my job to do that, and I accepted. I didn't think it was going to be something that hard, and we had the pandemic, and then we had this man killed, and then we had all that others come up, and then all the family stuff, and I said, oh boy, this is something.
That's
But
the thing. Yeah. Thank you, Marilyn. And I just so honor your sharing of that process, because I think it's an acknowledgement for each and every one of us that what we are going through is not easy. It is challenging because in order to release, to take us to another level, it is like we're faced with the deepest aspects and elements of those wounds and lessons that we actually came in for. So we know it's not personal, and yet it is, until we can get to the space of holding it with detachment and with love. This is our training ground. I think I said that right in the beginning. This is the real work, and the real work, so often, as you were saying, Katie, and I think Liz, you've probably found that out as well, so much of the real work is actually happening in our families right now. It's not happening out there on the streets in the protests. It is happening for each and every one of us within our immediate environment. And that's the real work. I was actually saying that, in the first couple of weeks as well of the lockdown, being here with my mom and her going through the grieving process that she was going through with my sister passing away in January, because it was just shocking. I mean, I can't even tell you the details of it, but it really, really was traumatic. And because of that and all of the emotional stuff, I just could not get a focus in to prepare the ninth wave stuff or the other material that I actually want to bring forward. But then, as a friend very astutely said to me, but Jules, this is your real work right now. Your real work in being with your mom. And I know I'm always in the perfect place at the perfect time. So doing that right now, that's the real work. So what you are doing with your family in balancing and weighing up and processing that, and all of the hurt and the pain and the disappointments and the, you know, that's our real work. Whatever we can actually do, and with our families, allowing somebody else to actually be in the space that they're in, and letting the processing take place for ourselves. This is the real work. And the more we can purify through that, the greater will be our contribution and service to the whole. So yeah, just absolute honoring for each and every one of you. And I hope that actually does make some sense. I really do see it. And one of the things that you were talking about earlier, Marilyn, also with the itching, that was stuck in my mind, and I thought the scratching. I thought, yeah, that's actually often one of the indications of energy moving, but it feels like it's like an itch that you can't get to. I don't know if that's it. You're scratching.
You can't get to it.
You can't get to it. You're scratching externally, but it's inside. Yeah, you can't get to it, but yet you still, sort of have a go at it. But it is, and that's because it's that it's a way that the vibration is actually experienced internally.
Well,
so it sometimes feels like bugs.
Yeah, that's interesting to know, because you can't scratch it, you can't do anything with it. And this whole thing with my family, everybody was horrified that I found out about it, because my daughter said to my grandson, "Oh, don't let Nana know about this, because if she may have a heart attack or a stroke." I mean, my family is fearing for me, and I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah. And I'm not having a heart attack, and I'm not having a stroke. And no, we won't let mom know. And then my son, no, we won't. And innocently, I see this little picture from their wedding, and I innocently clicked on it, and everybody said, "Boom. You weren't supposed to know about this. We're afraid for your health. We don't want to lose you." And I said, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to beat up on all of you and hold you up. I'm not going anywhere." Sorry about that. But that they were just so shook up, and everybody in the family was falling apart when they knew that Anna knew. Oh my God.
Isn't that interesting, Marilyn? Because at the moment as well, I mean, that's what we're saying about the whole ninth wave thing and about the new reality, is it's transparency. It's like, you can't hide. You can't hide these things anymore. So it's like, you were meant to click on that because you were meant to see. It's like, yeah, bring it all out.
I said, I was supposed to know. And no, you weren't. No, let's step back and see what's really happening in the world. I was supposed to know.
Yeah. Absolutely, I'm with you, and that's exactly what's happening with the energetics right now. Yeah. So yeah, you can't hide. We can't hide anything. It's all coming out, and we kind of think, oh, transparency is really in our relationship with the leaders and the politicians and the companies and what have you. It's total transparency. So wherever we might have been, sort of holding parts of ourselves back and not showing parts of ourselves to others, it's like that is all coming to the surface as well. So if we haven't resolved so many of our emotional issues, that side, it's gonna show itself. Anything that is not resolved within us too, it's not resolved within the family, it's gonna actually come up. So there's it's so big, and I think those people who are still at a certain level of awakening, for us that have been working with these wisdoms in the community, it's difficult enough because we're going through the process. But for those that haven't yet progressed even, as far along on their journey, it's even more difficult for them to deal with some of the stuff that's actually coming up. So that's where we get a lot more. And I'm hearing and seeing perhaps a lot more despair, a lot more frustration, a lot more anger, because they just don't know what to do. It's like, where did this come from? It's like, I've done my work. Well, if we're feeling those things, we're not done yet. It's a huge journey. And I think I've said this before as well, is that the more we do, the more space we create to process more of the collective stuff through us. So some people will also say, and some of the teachings will say, know what is yours and what is not. But the highest spiritual masters know that everything is theirs. So it's only when we get to the point of total transparency and no triggers that we truly are able to fully embrace. So the more we clear, the more we bring in, until we are just not triggered by anything, and we can actually hold that love. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, we're gonna keep doing it. That's the good news.
Tune in next week. Holy smoke.
Yeah, I know. But it is so good to be able to share this space, even though there's only 4 of us this time. To even
it
be
really
able
did.
to
It's
hey?
perfect group. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, having said that, there's hopefully a couple more insights into what is going on. And like I said, it just, the whole Kundalini thing has been so important to me from the moment that I learned the scope of how it actually presents and how it manifests. Because again, we've been sold down the river with it to some extent, where it's all the love light stuff, and you do this and you raise it, and the energy raises, and everything is just wonderful, and you live in bliss. Well, no, that's actually not it. So the more educated and aware we become of how this energy manifests, the more easily we can actually work with it. So just be aware there's a lot of it. And if we are feeling it, so you might even, if people around you that are perhaps spiritually aware, or they start experiencing, sort of like really weird dreams. I mean, that's another manifestation, apocalyptic dreams. It's dreams of death and apocalyptic dreams. And that can be really scary. It's kind of like you're having nightmares. And when I was going through it as well, I was thinking, now, why am I actually dreaming this stuff? It's so awful. You wake up thinking, oh my God, I'm like having nightmares. And here I am having the most wonderful spiritual experiences when I'm in a, sort of a focused alpha delta state. And yet when I go to sleep, I'm having these like bloody awful nightmares. What does it mean? And then you start finding out that that's your unconscious actually processing another aspect or another layer of the egoic self. And it's actually preparing for the death and the dying of the ego. We literally die to parts of ourselves through the process. So it's very, very often accompanied by dreams of death, dying, and an apocalypse. So you can imagine again why something that we're seeing externally, it feels like the apocalypse. When you look at some of the stuff that's happening in the world at the moment, this external manifestation of the dream of the internal apocalyptic death of the ego process, because that's where the world is moving. We can only achieve transparency when we've actually tamed and broken down and brought death to the ruling energy and grip of the ego. And that's what's been ruling the world. So each one of us that goes through this process adds and cleanses another layer for the collective, so that we can move towards governance and structures that are no longer ego driven. So that's like big picture perspective. So I hope that makes a little bit of, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's also valuing, I think it's just so important to value those individual processes that are taking place at the moment. So where you might think, oh my God, like you were saying, Liz, it's this constriction, I'm in a void and I can't meditate, what have you. It's actually quite natural to go through stages like that as part of the cleansing process. and to honor that part of the journey, honor that part of the process, because that is also a contribution to the bigger picture. It's, yeah. And it almost feels counterintuitive, doesn't it, from everything that we've been taught, but when we put it into perspective, we can attribute greater meaning to the process and to the journey. So anyway, that's me. I'm aware that I do spend a lot of time talking. So I hope it hasn't been too much.
No, very, very helpful for me.
Definitely, yeah. It also, it reminds me, Julie, if you remember, was it over 30 years ago, I had that voice that led me to that song of Peter Gabriel's, "Can't You Feel Our Souls Ignite, Ever-Changing Colours," angels standing in the sun, welcome, now's the time for the New Jerusalem or something. And I just think that is now. It's exactly what is happening now.
Yes.
But we don't know who the leaders are going to be.
No, we don't. We don't, because because we have to actually restructure the structures that are there in order to put the new leaders in, because the new leaders that will have the awareness can't operate within the structures that we've got in place. So it's a bit like a catch-22 at the moment.
Yeah.
There's push-pull. Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose really it is a case of less is more at the moment.
Yeah. Yes.
And in the United States, there is all kinds of calls for and all kinds of actual changes that they're making in some of the police departments. And there, some of it can't be implemented. It takes time for it to be implemented. Some things are just like right now, no more chokeholds, no more this, no more that. In some cities, it's like boom, boom, boom. And the bar is too low. We need to do more. And so there's actual changes or actual ideas for changes in the police force.
Yeah.
In various cities. And it's stunning.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
It's
I mean,
scary.
in the UK, yeah, I mean, our police in the UK do not carry firearms. It's a completely different way of policing.
I've heard
they
that.
Carry tasers, and there've been some reports of things going, but tasers and batons, but they don't carry firearms.
And all kinds of issues that have happened during the marches and the riots and whatever they are, different things. Those people have filmed those things. They're all over and everybody's getting exposed.
Yeah.
Where they never were before. And one person after another is getting exposed. And it's horrible to see, but it's fantastic that it's occurring. It's fantastic.
That's it. One bit at a time, you see more and more, and it's starting to come out. It's like I posted something just I think yesterday or the day before, where the editor of the Lancet, which is a highly reputable medical journal in the UK, the Lancet and the British Medical Journal, I think there were two editors who were actually discussing, and an article was written about this, where they were actually saying that they are tired of being bullied by the pharmaceutical industry to print and publish papers that they know are skewed or outright fraudulent. And they also had a big concern about Bill Gates' stranglehold and influence in the pharmaceutical industry. And I was kind of like, oh, wow. Now, the mainstream media didn't talk about that, but I thought those little signs are so encouraging, because it is going to gain momentum. And as far as the whole medical aspect of things are concerned, I also contacted, I found somebody else had pointed me to it, and I went and had a look at an article and then explored the website. And it really is a group of people who are medical doctors, human rights advocates, social advocates for social change, all sorts of wonderful people who are involved with this particular website, and that they are highly, highly supportive. They're calling out Big Pharma. They're calling out the pharmaceutical industry. They are highlighting the fact that we are not here to be guinea pigs in these medical experiments, that nothing should be mandatory by government. And I contacted them and I actually said, what can we do as citizens? I said, we are citizens and I'm part of a community of very aware people, and we want to know how we can assist in this and what we can do individually to ensure that our rights are protected. In the case of, because we're well aware of what is actually happening in the bigger picture, how can we help? And I think it was yesterday that I sent that through to them on the website, this question, and thanked them. And I went, that felt so empowering. What those people are doing as a group is so empowering. I just said, thank you so much for what you're doing. More and more people are becoming aware of it. Now, how can I actually share this and what can we do? So I'm waiting for a response for them. I'm praying that we actually get something, because then I will share it with you as a community, because we'll start to cascade that out. So I think that while it is despairing sometimes, look out there, just thank you so much for sharing what you've shared about the police force and about the other things that we are seeing that are an indication that those small pockets of change. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. It wasn't destroyed in a day. You know, so it's like little bit by little bit, celebrating each and every one of those shifts and changes. And each one of those is also as a consequence of the internal work and the work that we've been doing, and how that ripples out into the morphogenic fields. So yeah, it's kind of like big pat on the back, because this is not easy. This is the work. This is the work.
And so important for each of us to recognize what you're saying, that this is the work. Thank you for saying it over and over. It's so important.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it is. That's it. Yeah, the work isn't, you know, maybe holding up banners. Sometimes it might be, you know, the work. This is the work. The really deep, powerful work. So thank you to each and every one of you.
Big girl pants on then.
Yeah, that's a good one, Liz. Yeah. Have you seen the Bridget Jones? That's an English expression, ladies.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys know it. Yeah, it's like we'll put our big girl pants on now. Big girl pants time. Yeah. So thank you so much. I love how these discussions go, because I always pitch up, there's no agenda, there's no, you know, nothing that's actually set down, and I think it is always just so perfect. Is there anything else that any of you would like to share or add more before we call it certainly in the UK we'll be calling it a night?
No, it's just been really good. Just really
Good.
needed. Yeah.
Yes, I feel
Excellent.
the exact same way. Thank you all, each and every one
All of you.
and
Absolutely.
Julie.
Me too, and thank you, each of you, for your contribution and your love, and Julie, I will tell you, the lady who's been doing the shopping for me, you know.
Yeah. Really?
She was the lady who came when you were in San Jose, and you gave one of your wonderful treatments to her, who was a client of mine, with Lindsay Santos, with the long dark hair, and she came to you. Slim, beautiful girl, and I recommended you, and she came to you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Marilyn.
And so she's the one who's been doing all this for me, and she's saying, when is Julie coming back? And I said, I don't know, but I saved my money for her to come back. I had all my money from my 3 sessions saved a long time ago. I said, I don't know when this happens.
The answer is I don't know at the moment. You know, we don't really know anything, because the flights are still closed. But of course, Paul has left. They've gone back to Salt Lake City.
Oh, she has gone back to Salt Lake?
Yeah, Paula and Rudy have gone back to Salt Lake City, so they are no longer in San Jose either.
Oh,
But
I
it doesn't that won't necessarily stop me. I can always still come back to San Jose.
I had no idea they had gone back. Well, I guess with the virus, there was no need for him to be there. I didn't know they went back. I haven't seen them for a while.
Yeah. It was a month ago. I think it was almost a month ago that they moved back. And I spoke to Paula before they went, but yeah, they're now back in. Her and Rudy are now back in Salt Lake. They moved
My
everything.
goodness, they're wonderful people. I went to
Oh, love them.
couple of little concerts with them, and yeah, they're just dear people. Anyway,
They are,
Hey.
aren't they? Yeah. So I am blessed to be surrounded by the most wonderful, 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 beautiful souls. And yeah, you stir my heart and you actually encourage the continuation of the next steps of the journey each and every time we actually get together. So I really just want to honor each and every one of you, just let you know how much I love you. All of you, even those who are not live on the call, know that I appreciate and love you all for what you're doing. I see it and I get it. So I just thanks so much
Love-
again, ladies.
love to you all.
Just
And Julie.
absolute love. Until next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll be taking
Okay.
my little motor, my new
Yeah.
little motor down to Geraldine soon.
I missed that. What happened about the car?
And I've got a new little car. I've got a
right.
new little same make.
What, a Hyundai?
Just a
Matrix?
yes. Just a newer
Sorry,
version.
Mitchell.
I had to laugh at. Sorry, I know I'm still recording. Let me put the recording off and stop it.